you know the situation is, right? We've
Yeah,
said this thing, what, like 124, no, 123 times already.
sure.
We strive to do a 1 hour,
Oh
90-minute
yeah.
podcast. No, 90
We
minutes,
have
not
a
even an hour. That's
we
an hour
we
and a half.
we
Yeah,
have a 90-minute podcast. That's right.
we have a 90-minute podcast. Have we
Like
hit an
clockwork.
100? Yeah, the Swiss will probably argue with us on that one. They'll be like, yeah,
I, the Swiss
can
have
you
no leg to stand on because our podcast regularly hits 90 minutes every single time,
every
and
single time?
then we do more. Hey, everybody. Welcome
I'll
to a
talk about it. We're
special
producing. Yeah,
Wednesday
yeah,
episode of our crazy, cranky old guys talking about tech podcast. Best of our week. We're going a
yeah,
little
absolutely.
earlier this week with a surprise live stream. My buddy TK here is yet again in another hotel room on location. Mr. TK Bay.
We're here with you here. Yes, thank you very much. I am here with you on location in beautiful Paris, actually, this time.
Ooh la
Enjoying,
la.
the nice weather, the beautiful hotels. But yeah, this time is really cool. We're still talking with a crappy camera because TK forgot to bring a. I mean, actually, I do have a good camera, but I didn't set it up. So
Yeah.
it's like, um, yeah, at the end of the day, TK needs to do better. Like, you think
Now,
I would have brought a good camera with me on the
anything
trip.
worth doing is worth doing poorly. You have made it to the live stream, and I
Absolutely.
feel
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
sometimes that's all the victory we can count on.
At
So,
this point, yeah, I'm gonna have to say that I think that we have to count our blessings, man. But
yeah.
happy late 4th of July to everybody that celebrates it. Obviously, in the U.S., we're
Hmm.
like a day after our holiday. It's a nice long holiday weekend for some. Some of us may had. It's weird because it's in the middle of the week. Some of us had to work
Yeah.
on Monday. Some of us had the Monday, Tuesday kind of thing. But still nice, summer barbecue, a whole bunch of things, family time. So it's good. So if you're celebrating perfectly, happy 4th of July. I know I'm spending it with the family as well, and I'm sure, Juan,
Yeah.
and as always. And of course, he had the SGDQA show a couple of days ago. But yeah, it's a special day. I'm here for another launch event. You probably maybe already heard about it. There's the Honor 90 that's going to be launching in Europe.
Hmm.
So that's going to be tomorrow, midday Europe time, which roughly will be really kind of early time in the US. But by the time
Yeah.
anytime wakes up tomorrow, the launch end would have started and taken on. So I'm excited to see what the options are, some of the features that Honor's going to put in there. They've already launched an Honor 90 Lite, I think in the UK about a month or
Yeah.
so ago. So there's a few people who already covered that. And in China, they've launched a 90, 90 Lite, and a 90 Pro. So I'm excited
So
to see what they're going to do tomorrow.
is this let's we're going to try and keep this show, that's what our joke was at the top of this. We're going to try and keep our show a little bit more focused. This is going to be hopefully the more streamlined podcast here because we're both on wildly different time zones.
Oh yeah.
Let's just jump right in. I know it's the middle option in our YouTube video title, but Honor 90.
Oh yeah,
The
yeah.
one thing I wanted to know is are we seeing Honor playing a delayed family of products game like Xiaomi did, or do you think that this is going to end up more like Vivo, where only one option seems to go to each individual region?
It's a little bit harder to tell because from what I've seen and all the information that we've seen, they're not referring to it as an Honor 90 series. They're referring to it as an Honor 90.
Yeah,
The 90 Lite, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think even had a launch event. It was just released in the Europe market, and we start seeing content on it. And there's been a good response to that. So the 90 Lite is typically their more budget-friendly device. The 90 and or the mid-range or the full number essentially is their mid-series. And then of course you get it. So yeah, right there. So the Honor 90, this is basically tomorrow at the Pavillon, what is it? Oh, Gabriel, in Paris. So that's tomorrow. Wow, it's already almost July 6th. It's hard. You know what? Like when you travel so
no.
much, it's it's just gonna sound like a first world problem kind of thing, but yeah, time is a very relative thing. Like I originally was when I was talking to JC about setting up this podcast, in my mind, I thought it was a different
Yeah,
time
you were a
of the
whole day
day.
ahead, so
Eh, that's like 'cause I like to be straightforward. So here, so in general, yeah. So that's yeah. So let's talk specifications. Some of the things that we have in here. This is based on. Is this the UK, the European version, or
so
is it
I
the?
have the UK. I'm trying to see if there's any place that's sneakily already starting to include like pricing and
Yeah, because I know
availability information.
France will have it because I saw that in the list, and I'm pretty
Okay.
sure the UK has it as well.
So yeah,
But
this is Germany right here, and I'm going
okay,
like nine, yeah.
9,
Um,
yeah,
but I'm not finding anything where I can kind of drill down in, and then like their overview on the website just takes you right back to the same sort
Well,
of
I was going to
splash
say,
page.
how much is it, does the Chinese side show how much it is since it's technically selling in China?
Oh, I haven't tried pulling it up. This is the Honor Global that kind of spits
What
you
one of the
out to the
options?
individual. Here, let's see in China.
Yeah, let's see. Maybe that'll show it.
Uh,
Honor 90, 5G. Oh,
ooh, that guy's sexy.
look at that.
So look at all these 5,000
5,000
milliamp hour
milliampere. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
battery.
yeah. And then
I think they're talking about
the
that's
camera.
probably a moon zoom
That's,
plug right
that's
there.
probably a moon mode.
I
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
can't read Chinese well enough to really get
I
what they're doing with all of these. This is more just the design. Looks like it's going for a glossy piano black or a matte
mhm.
finish, or not a matte finish. That kind of sparkly finish,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
green color,
But
that
it still
jade
looks
color.
nice. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No,
And
I,
then
I
there's
like I like that
this.
a lot. Yeah, it's like the Vivo, the V27 had that kind of.
I was
It
gonna say,
looks
yeah,
textured, but it feels smooth kind of
yeah.
backplate.
Well, and of course, so the biggest thing you'll probably see here is right there. I'm assuming the thing on the right side, where it says top right, where it says it's the 200 megapixel camera. That's going to be the star of the
Hmm.
show. I'm not sure what the 1200 is because that's not the battery. Um,
Yeah, I can't tell. It says a 1/1.4, but so I think one of the sensors in there that might be an ultra wide.
it has to be,
No, the
yeah.
1200, that's a 112-degree field of view. It looks like
Ah,
an
wait.
aperture of 2.5, but they don't say what that camera is down there. So that might be the
Okay.
telephoto is a 1/1.4, or maybe it's some kind of portrait lens. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
we're
I mean, so it
looking
looks like it's a
triple
triple
camera,
camera
which looks
lens
pretty cool.
system in the back. That 200 is that main sensor at the top, and then a front-facing camera, of course, 4K. Um, what are we seeing here? Da, da, da.
That's the
Raw. I
whatever
saw some
main
kind of
camera sensor is. But
yeah.
you know, you're
I,
you're you're out there and you're trying to get kind of a sense of what Honor's doing. I mean, we're just kind of live reacting to
well,
a
so
website that
what
we
I'll
can't
say is
read.
this. Okay.
But
So from my experience with Honor's smartphones, at least over the years, we've covered between the two of us. I think we've covered a good number of theirs. I think,
yeah,
if I'm not mistaken, from last year's launch of the Honor 70, because I got a chance to go over to IFA with them, and we saw the launch in IFA. Uh, they've typically done, and yeah, so here's kind of like a quick recap. It's gonna be basically a good mid-range processing or mid-ranger of a smartphone that definitely hits above the belt. And what I mean by that is it's really going for it. It's giving you all the features, but it's not going to charge you as much. The 1600 nit looks like it's going to be 1220 hertz, as you can imagine, 6.7-inch display, and of course 5,000 milliampere battery. It just obviously it's going to hit all the numbers, and of course DCRP, P3, of course 3,800 hertz. I'm assuming that's
I'd
uh,
say that's like maybe
the
touch
PDR dim.
resolution.
Is it the dimming, the DC
Yeah,
dimming
but
on it,
but
or
don't worry about what I'm trying to scan through here
sounds
on the
like we're reading
website.
all the stuff. Yeah, yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing what it does. So I'll say the biggest thing I'll probably about it that I'm excited is, can they get a good balanced experience in there? Will we get desktop mode experience in there? That's also one of the things I always look forward whenever I look into these.
Hmm.
And how are they able to balance the performance to the battery life? I'm expecting long battery life because that's what we've seen from them before. I
Yeah,
didn't get a chance to check out I don't even know if they released, did they release an Honor 80? Or did I miss that somewhere?
I don't
Because I remember
remember one.
70
No.
last year, and then we
Yeah.
came into the Honor, yeah. And so beauty, bright, natural light, that is, yeah, the aesthetics of
Don't
that
read
thing
the
look
website,
definitely.
TK.
No, no, no. I'm enjoying the pictures look great. I'm going to skip the reading. The launch event is going to be an exciting event. There's going to be, I'm sure, tons of other things. I'm hoping for some surprise content and some surprise announcements from Honor. If they're holding a big event about this, obviously they're making a big deal about it, and I think that's the biggest thing. We should really pay attention. And they always surprise, so I'm really looking forward to seeing that. So that's one of the biggest things. So I'm happy first and foremost that they invited me, and I'm able
Hmm.
to be here. Also, actually, I do want to say thank you very much to a friend of ours, Nick Gray, for Fandroid, for helping me out on this because I'm actually technically
Yeah.
also
No,
I'm
that's a
going to
great
be.
collaboration. Nick is such good
I will
people,
say
and you're
absolutely,
gonna be sort of supporting his site, so that it's kind of a
yeah,
win-win for the both of you. So we
exactly.
do. Ghost Starscream in our chat was like, "Hey doofuses, why don't you just run it through like Google Translate or something?" Because often these websites, like when you have Chinese characters that are built into the images, it won't do anything. But this is actually a lot of this is formatted so that the text is animated, but it's a part of the website. And so
Yeah,
we're
that's a
looking at this
magical
being.
7.1 right
I think
there.
this is an interesting position for Honor because the
Hmm.
Honor 90 is promoting the first generation Snapdragon 7 enhanced version chip. And I don't know what that means, but I think a lot of companies, like Honor included, looked
Mhm.
at what happened with phones last year on the 8 Gen 1, and in their
Yeah,
pivot, a lot of them are saying, "Hey, we can fulfill all of the same features: crazy cameras, megapixel resolutions, and 4K videos, and super fast, ultra fast displays, and we can go down, save a little bit of money on manufacturing this, and go down to a 7 series or a 700 series SoC,
yeah,
and
yeah.
no one will notice. Like they are
Well,
so performant now, no one
yeah.
is going to be able to tell the difference on the core smartphone, content creation and gaming kinds of uses."
And I agree. And I think that, so. The one thing I'll probably say is this: we've been used to seeing MediaTek make a lot of processors that are custom SoCs, and we've seen them
Mm-hmm.
for many years, like the 1200 Ultra, and Vivo had the edition kind of going on with them when they were doing the 1100 and 1200 series. I'm glad that Qualcomm is starting to work with companies to create these type of editions. Now, I'm not sure if this enhanced version is going to be purely for Honor, but at least we know, like earlier in the year, we heard about Samsung's collaboration with their enhanced version, or their made for Galaxy, essentially an
Mm-hmm.
overclocked version of the 8 Gen 2, than the standard typical 8 Gen 2 that everybody else is using. And it looks like, they're going even back on, like you said, the older SKUs from last year, which we're seeing a lot of. That's a big hit there to tell you that
Yeah.
you don't, yeah, we've hit that threshold where I feel like, yeah, even 2022, I would even say even 21, and some may even consider 20 even a consideration. Those SoCs are still doing. I mean, the 870 was surviving for so long, like, the 865 plus version. And we saw so many companies push that device out. And I think that's one of the
Yeah. I,
biggest benefits there.
I don't even think companies have really like unseated the Snapdragon 865 and 870 today. Like, I don't
Yeah.
think we've seen anything released, but I wouldn't be surprised if, like, the end of the year, someone puts out like a budget student tablet with like an 870 again, just because they're still kicking around.
End of
Like,
2023, that
right?
870 will not die. No, no,
It won't.
I
It's so
think I
good.
think it's I think it's a great, because it gives you the best of both worlds. Like, yes, the 865 was the last generation, or the 865 Plus was the last generation we had where the balance performance to power performance was not overwhelmed. It wasn't skewed towards, overheating. It
Mm-hmm.
still had a good balance. You get good battery life. It was the pre 888 and the 8 Gen 1, temperature issues and machine
Well,
fab
and
and
right
all
now
of
on
that.
the website for Honor, I've got this is kind of the same thing that Sony did,
Mhm.
where in going from the Xperia 1 Mark IV to the Xperia 1 Mark V, Honor is doing this too. It's, hey, we've completely re-engineered the inside of the phone. We've got more graphite, we've got more copper, we've got more thermal processing capabilities, and we're going to an SoC that is a better performance per watt. So you end up with a double whammy of overcorrecting for how bad the 8 Gen 1 was. And I'm telling you, it's like night and day difference going from an Xperia 1 Mark IV to an Xperia 1 Mark V for some of those longevity tests. Like they are completely different animals when you're using them out in the field. And again, it's funny seeing, because this isn't like, their most expensive premium tier option, but even Honor is saying like, hey, as we're getting into higher performance upper mid rangers or starter premium, because I kind of feel like the Honor 90 is right on that border, right? It's not really a mid ranger, but it's not completely built to do battle with like a Galaxy S23 Plus. It's kind of
Yeah,
in that gray area between the two. So
I
it's
think
kind of great
it
because you're
has.
like, whoa, there's so much more copper and cooling hardware and heat dissipation, and like you're also using a Snapdragon 7 series, so you shouldn't have issues with thermals using a lower powered chip.
I think that's the biggest benefit, though. You're trying to give that long battery life and still give that kind of experience. We know the 7 series did great, especially the 765. Before we even get the 7 Gen series from Qualcomm, the 765 was doing amazingly great, and the
Yeah.
788, those lasted really well.
Now,
So,
now, TK, I need your thoughts on this.
sure,
Um,
man.
so this is a part of their website, and I'm worried about the phrasing. Because
Yeah.
I feel like something has been lost in translation with me doing Google Translate on a Chinese website. The potential of high energy chips explodes. Now, is that a word? you want associated with your high energy chip? Ready, comment.
I'm going to say probably not. I probably would say, oh my God. I mean, we haven't, I'll say this, we haven't had a device used. I know what they mean with the, I think
Yeah,
that,
there
yeah,
is definitely phrasing lost in translation there.
no, no, absolutely. This is why we're not trying to comment. Okay, we want to be very clear. We're not commenting on the Chinese edition of the site. This is purely because I think
No,
these devices were launched there, so there's more information
there's
for
more
us to kind of
information
look
out.
at.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. The game engine, all of the stuff that we've seen before. Now, keep in mind, obviously, international models will have Google Play services. They may also have some feature
Mm-hmm.
differences as far as the software benefits. So it's never a one-to-one. The core experience translates, but then like Magic OS 7.1, which I think we saw earlier, it's going to be adapted to have Google Play services, functional areas, nearby share, Android Auto. I'm not sure about Android Auto. That depends on the region. But essentially, it's going to be adapted to the international market. And as we saw in the earlier thing, it's going to come into UK. It looks like it's coming to Paris as well. Our PR friends from Honor has been posting pictures from that device, so they
Mm-hmm.
look very nice. And like I said, I'm really excited to see. It looks like it has NFC as well. As I look in some of those images, and the 7 Series is going to be good. The temperatures and all of that, I think that'll be really nice. I think overall, what I'll say is this: I'm glad that I'm here. I'm really happy to be able to check it out tomorrow, and hopefully there'll be more conversations,
Mm-hmm.
um, more informed conversations very soon. I'll say that. I'm not going to say anything
Once
else.
once you get
More
hands
in,
on with it, and
absolutely.
one of the main ways that we'll be able to hear some of those conversations and see what's going on is, of course, through the targeted use of social media, which is a
I'll
raging
try.
dumpster fire right now, and
Not only it's been kind of like, did you hear about that? Apparently, Twitter was getting DDoSed a few days ago or so.
not, no, no.
This,
Wait, hold on. Let's be
okay,
journalistically accurate here, TK.
I'm
I don't
sorry.
want to be
Yeah,
accused of spreading misinformation. Twitter was not getting DDoSed. Twitter was DDoSing itself, which makes it even better. So as they were instituting this new walled garden
the new
policy
walled
to
garden, all
prevent
this,
scraping from outside apps,
and
there
they've
was
changed
like
that
a
quite a.
circular loop of Twitter calling to parts of its own site that it couldn't fulfill the call and would then repeat the call to reload the information, and it there was no outside attack on Twitter. The call came from inside the house.
That's even better. I like that. That's the way you want to have the conversation. Like, who did it? We did it. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
It was an interesting conversation. Like, how do you bring it up? But it's more so kind of also the artificial limitation that's been going on. But
Yeah.
yes, to a certain point, social media it's a weird space to be in right now because depending on where you are, you're either in a very controlled, very limited conversation that keeps changing, and I saw some of those changes that they were trying to push, and the reality at the end of the day is I don't think I hit 600 posts that I read on a single day or 700 a day. I try not to be that much into
Sure.
the weeds. I have a few people that I follow, yourself as well, as you know, and I like to stay on top of that. We've been doing really good also talking on over on Mastodon. I feel like Mastodon's been doing quite well for engagement and
Mm-hmm.
getting more conversations going on. So I feel like, with Instagram as well, kind of trying to do this thing, and we want to, definitely
Yeah.
will touch base on that. That's really the weirdest thing. And Instagram coming into the space, I feel like is a weird.
It's a
Like
weird fit.
Instagram, well, but because Instagram has done this before, right? I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm.
They saw TikTok booming and were okay, well, introduction of Reels. I'm like, okay, great. So now Instagram is pretty much a Reel site because everybody posts Reels and they want
Yeah.
to encourage that, and they did that for a while. Having them jump into the Twitter space where their bread and butter has been more media, not conversation. I don't know how that transition kind of. I mean, I understand the benefit from a creator standpoint because you already have a user base.
Yeah.
You're transferring your kind of existing base that transfers now from just the standard Instagram and then now becomes part of the threads or whatever I think it's called
Mm-hmm.
Instagram threads if I'm not mistaken.
I think most
So
people are just calling it Threads, and I think
yeah.
Facebook is happy with it being its
Oh,
own brand name because they're trying to limit
mhm.
the Facebook
Ish.
reputation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Again, it's like
They
it's
want to make
not
it into Facebook.
WhatsApp by Facebook. It's just
Yeah.
WhatsApp, and they're trying to make it sound like it's a wholly unique or a separate product. I think it's really funny how precious they've been with this, because the
Mhm.
whole notion is, what if we made Instagram, but you could choose to share posts with or without photos? And you're
Yeah.
like, that sounds like it's just Instagram, only that you can turn the photo part off and just write the description to your photo. That doesn't sound like a new platform, or at least it shouldn't be. And yet
I'd
it's
love to.
like so much development has gone into
Yeah.
making this its own platform. It kind of boggles my mind a little bit.
I just want to be, I would love to be a fly on the wall during the meeting, the pitch meeting for this thing. It's like how they're
Right.
pitching it. Like, okay, look, how can we compete with them? Like, how about what if we take the pictures out of the thing that we took and we
Whoa,
bought?
whoa, shut your face. Whoa,
Just
what
hear
did
me
you
out,
just
hear me
say to
out, hear
me?
me out.
Okay,
I promise
okay,
this is going to pan out. Take the pictures out. But here's the kicker.
okay, okay.
Describe everything that you would have put in that picture in words.
Oh man.
People
Okay,
can read.
so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna cancel all of the billions of dollars that we're spending on metaverse, and we're gonna make an option for Instagram, but with the option of being less visual.
And we're going to call it very simply. It's because it's going to be a threaded conversation. You're going to have people
Right,
talk to each other.
right,
We're going
right.
to
I'm
go with
following you.
threads.
You
Threads.
shut your face.
I
I
know, I know. I didn't think it was going to
Wow.
work at the beginning. Yeah, I know, exactly.
Oh
But
man.
there, I got you. I got you.
I
See,
can't.
that's how
Yeah.
easy it was. We didn't have to go that far. I mean, we just saved ourselves 6 months of meetings and meetings upon meetings.
So,
Yeah, sorry.
I don't know. I finally just started getting Blue Sky invites. I might ask like some of my friends if they want a Blue Sky invite. I don't have a lot of confidence in Blue Sky being another Jack Dorsey venture where
Yeah.
a good chunk of my interaction is coming from bots. They've been really sketchy about their moderation.
Mhm.
I don't know that this is going to be any better than Twitter because it's Jack Dorsey, and the one promise is eventually we're going to make it a platform of platforms, kind of like the federated social media, like PixelFed and Mastodon. And you're like, okay, well, but Mastodon exists, so we can go and do platforms on platforms with stuff that already exists, that's populated, that has users, and especially there's been a huge surge on Mastodon traffic over the last couple days with Twitter completely pooping the bed.
Yeah.
Um, I, I I don't have a lot of confidence in Blue Sky. I have even less confidence in Threads. I don't know what your feelings are because I feel like especially over the summer is the best time to kind of do a social media detox. Are you are you feeling any differently? I mean, you've been kind of poking around on a couple different platforms now too.
I'm starting to, yeah, because the reality is at the end of the day, look, the blue check mark is one part of what Twitter is, but I feel like Twitter, to start with, we have a very small, close-knit tech friend group that we chat with, and it's literally a
Mm-hmm.
very small group. And the group itself would have functioned for me the exact same way had I paid for the blue or didn't pay for the blue. And I didn't, the thing for me that made me jump into that initially was to just get the edit function. And I typically don't even see
Yeah.
myself doing it as much. I mean, it's not that much of a, like the conversations are pretty much who's going to respond back and talk to.
Yeah.
Mastodon for me took me a few days, about maybe a week or so for me to get used to the interactions there. I love the fact that at its core, the experience is built around conversation. It's literally built around people searching for topics that they want, and it's not bombarded by all the other, I'm going to say, the entities that just typically overfill everything else in there.
Right.
On Twitter right now, every time I go in, 90% of the time, which is really bugging me, I see a thread, not a thread, I see, yeah, Instagram is in my mind. I see a chat, right? And I see a post that I want to interact with, but Instagram updates right away, shoots it
Yep.
all the way down. It's gone. I have no idea where it is. Luckily, I remember who the person that posted, then I have to go look for their post, scroll, go all the way down to find where, but that extra interaction, it's very, like, it's not what it used to be. Like, you don't have a way of filtering that conversation out.
Right.
For me, Blue Sky feels very much like a Twitter. So this is where I get a little bit antsy as well. It's kind of like how you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Instagram has been one of those companies for me that where I'll say they did copy, the TikToks basically to a good experience. They did make it into a good experience. I like how they have it
Yeah.
in the system. I don't like that they for a certain duration now they've pushed everything into being a reel, and they were supporting content and they were actually making funds and paying for people for creators to do that. And I'm seeing kind of like a push. People like to post pictures. People like to show
Yeah.
reels, and those kind of connect to each other, pictures and picture and
Sure.
videos.
Again, a visual sort of
But
sharing of storytelling.
yeah, so I don't know if they're ever going to combine them together. They may just have them as just two standard standalone for quite some time, and maybe at some point keep
Yeah.
everything together. But if they separate them, there is a good, I think they have a good chance because the fact that people are tapping into their existing user base. They're not having to start from scratch. And I think that's the difference between
Yeah.
like a
Well,
Mastodon
and
and a Blue Sky.
and again, Facebook has been very upfront about their interest in federating also,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
Facebook can contribute, I'm doing big air quotes here, contribute
Big bunny air
to,
quotes. Okay.
yeah, whew, to the social media platforms like Mastodon and interact with them. But of course, they'll wall off their part of the garden and just soak up all of the public data on everyone else's interactions on the platform.
That's the flip side.
And
That's the flip side that bothers me with the type
yeah,
of data and mining and aggregation that we're not really considering here. But yeah,
well,
which is
because
very different.
if you bring the Facebook algorithm to sorting content to make you miserable over to Mastodon, then you destroy Mastodon. So even if someone can interact with Mastodon posts, I believe Facebook's play with both Facebook and Threads, and eventually Instagram, if they ever kind of make all of these things interoperable like that, will be the same kind of feed manipulation. And every single time we've had a social media platform engage in that kind of ratcheted feed manipulation, it's immediately tanked the user experience. So Septian saying I shouldn't talk smack about Blue Sky, but Septian, we've already established in previous conversations that you have terrible taste in social media platforms and that you completely missed the boat on Reddit where we all would have been sharing and supporting your work and your videos and stuff. And I don't know how to drag you kicking and screaming into something that would be better for you, but I don't think it's by supporting Jack Dorsey. So I'm going to keep talking smack about Blue Sky, and hopefully someday you listen to me and you get on board with sharing and supporting content creators and yourself in places that won't put an algorithmic boot on your neck. But that's just me. You do you.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Hope you guys are doing great.
We also really love hearing from our viewers on this podcast. It's our favorite thing.
Yeah, no, no. I think it's really going to be it's going to kind of come down to kind of like what makes the user experience the most fluid, realistically, and what
Yeah.
makes it
Well,
easy for consumers to. I don't think the
algorithmic
algorithm.
social
Yeah.
media is always easier to get into, and we see this cycle. Cory Doctorow, he
Mhm.
wrote Little Brother, but he's like a common pundit in these kinds of conversations, and he came up with a word called the enshittification of social media or
Yeah.
enshittification of services, and it describes this cycle that we've seen play out time and time and time and time and time and time again, where you start off with something cool and users start to sort of accrue en masse. And then you switch to advertisers, and then advertisers are sort of courted en masse, and then advertisers are ratcheted to deliver all of that value back to the shareholders. And it happens every single time. And if you have a monolithic service, I don't care if it's Jack Dorsey or Mark Zuckerberg, if you have a singular service that's controlled by one entity, you can predict that cycle playing out again. So I don't care if Blue Sky starts out awesome, it needs to go through this same process. But we already have a proof of concept where people can host their own conversations and they can host their own servers and instances. If you want, you can make your own Mastodon server just for you. You can
Yeah.
be an island of one if you want to do that and front your own server costs. You are perfectly capable of creating this, managing it, paying for it, or subsidizing it. Like, that is a thing you can do. You can't make your own Facebook of one person that can still talk to all of your other friends on Facebook. You are beholden to Facebook. You are beholden to Elon Musk on Twitter. You are beholden to Jack Dorsey on Mastodon. But the thing that always starts is, hey, let's get you some new followers and let's fill your feed with some cool stuff. And oh, isn't this so much fun? And it always starts out great. It's always starts out great.
No, of
But
course.
what do we know is as soon as you really start putting some effort into it, they're going to shift and then they're going to focus on advertisers to monetize. And then you become the fuel of the machine. They're going to burn you as fuel to pay for the advertisers that are really going to profit their site, or to get money from the advertisers that are really
Of
going to
course.
profit
Yeah.
their site. So I don't have any confidence in here. My experiences on Mastodon have been kind of amazing. Over the last week, I went from 420, 430 followers to 520 followers. So I'm up almost 25% since Twitter started pooping the bed. That was a good Freudian slip right there. I think this podcast is not going to be PG this week, folks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but every single thing I post on Mastodon has been getting significantly more organic engagement. So
Yeah.
if I post like a link to one of my videos, it might get a share and a couple likes on Twitter. On Twitter, I have 16,000 followers. On Mastodon, I'm getting comments and questions and lots of likes and a couple more shares, and I have 500 followers. So I'm not a math genius, but that seems like far fewer followers on one platform to where I'm getting way better interactions with real human beings as opposed to just getting, again, algorithmically stomped on the neck by Elon Musk because I'm not paying him for my
That was
posts
the
to
thing.
show
Yeah,
up more
that was the
frequently.
thing. Yeah, the making the blue part of the conversation, meaning that if you are paying for the service, you're getting more visibility, you're getting priority over others. And I realize obviously it's a paid service. It's not. I mean, they're not really. It's a very different. It's such a disadvantage to the other person. I understand that the blue check mark, and maybe that makes sense.
Right.
The ability of being able to go in there and edit your tweet, it makes sense
Sure.
perfectly. It's a pro feature. The fact that it's free on other social services is like, wow, but okay, they're paying for it now. Um, it's one of those things I just kind of typically just, I feel like I don't understand how we can repeat the cycle over and over and not realize how where the cycle gets broken. The fact is now Twitter, now everywhere you go in, if you're seeing a thread, the conversation with a few people, you start actually even worse. I'm getting more and more recommendations of people showing up in my feed that I don't follow
Yeah.
that are in my feed, like commenting. And I
Yes.
understand that some of them are related to the things I typically look at,
Mm-hmm.
but then I suddenly look at their like, I don't follow this person. Why are they showing up in my feed? And I click the three dots to see what it is. Nope, they don't follow me. I don't follow them. There's no conversation. They're not being retweeted by somebody that I'm following.
Yep.
Those are the things I have to sift through every single day to go through to get what I want out of Twitter right now. And that's the dumpster fire that I'm really concerned with.
And, I
I feel
don't
like
have
it's
that problem on Mastodon.
Yeah, but
So,
it's the work. It's like every time I go in, and by the time I get to the meat of the product that I'm trying to look at or whatever, we're seeing updates from our friends or the content that's being put out. I feel exhausted because I've gone through so much. The site gets the benefit of it. I get none of the benefit out of it because I've gone so far down. So this is where it's going to come down. Once threads become fully functional and people are able to get into it,
mm-hmm.
um, we'll have to see how Instagram responds to this level. They're very heavily invested into algorithmic because that's what Instagram
Yeah.
is right now. Instagram is absolutely the same thing. You're scrolling through, you're getting every two posts, it's an ad. It's just
And then
consistent.
also, like, we need to keep reiterating, it was Facebook's experimentation on their own users that established this cycle that now I believe YouTube and Twitter are also taking advantage of, where they know if you're angry and miserable, you will spend more time on their platform. I'm not
Oh, no doubt.
exaggerating, and
No,
I'm
no,
not
no.
doing this for comedic effect. Their own data scientists psychologically tinkered with their own users. And this sounds like a World War II experiment. This sounds awful.
Yeah, yeah.
But they found, like, hey, if we really populate someone's feed with things that make them happy, they won't spend as much time on our site. But if we're constantly ratcheting up their anger, ratcheting up their fear, and then causing more divisions, like if we can get family members arguing with each other, we will keep more people on the site. And every time I go to Twitter and I'm sifting through those people that I know I'm not following, there is a ton of content on there that I find horrific and objectionable, and from people and commentators that I would never have engaged with. And instead of like, oh, well, let me get past it so I can see my friends' posts, I just leave because I have other places I can go that don't make me feel miserable all the time. And
Yeah.
like I just found a new hashtag to follow on Mastodon. It's called bloom scrolling. You know, like doom scrolling, but instead of scrolling doom, you're scrolling pretty flower photos. And you know what's a lot nicer to scroll in your feed is a whole worldwide community of amateur photographers taking pretty photos of flowers. That's one of my hobbies. It makes you feel good. You should
No,
try it sometime. I love it.
those are beautiful flowers. Okay, thank you for the recommendation, my friend.
Bloom
That'll be one of
scrolling
my
is a
new.
great tag to follow on Mastodon.
Absolutely.
I adore the, and again, I've been playing some of their hashtag games. Like one was add robots to a classic. So
Yeah.
I sort of I found this image of a Victorian dressed female looking robot, and so I wrote Sense and Sensibility and Cyborgs. That one post of just joking around on like a hashtag game like got me so many more followers. I think that's when I jumped from like 200 followers to like 350. And it's just like because of one interaction like that. So to me, it's like every time someone I see a like on one of my posts, it means nothing professionally because there is no algorithm to impress with likes. But it's actually more encouraging because there was someone out there who was just like, hey, I thought that was a cool post. And you're like, oh, that was an actual human being who does not get anything out of this interaction, and I don't get anything out of this interaction, and they just wanted to send me a little thumbs up. So like, it's so refreshing in how dumb old school it is, but it's
Yeah.
so much more human for not having a gatekeeper in between you and the person you're trying to interact with, constantly stomping on your content.
Yeah.
Instead, if it's on the right hashtag and someone finds it, it'll blow up. We have not had that real experience of going viral for a long time now, where you could have just like a random video of a kid falling asleep in a high chair and like, oh, isn't this the funnest video? And I shared it with all my coworkers and oh, it went viral. That doesn't happen anymore because these platforms get in the way of the audience trying to see this content until there's some monetary value that they can stretch from that video. Or I should say, it's exceedingly rare for that same shared experience where everybody saw, like, Charlie bit my finger, like, oh, have you seen this video? Oh my gosh, it's so cute. That doesn't exist anymore because of the constant churn on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube shorts and reels and all this stuff. So Mastodon replaces some of that for me. It's like I get a little taste of that back every single time I go on to Mastodon.
As you and I were talking on Mastodon, I just got I did, one a buddy of mine, Rockwell, just joined and followed me. Thank you very much for the follow, man. Appreciate it. And yeah, no, it's a very, it's weird. It's like, being at the party ahead of everybody else, and you're just getting a chance to play around with buddies and chit-chatting and having and catching up and not having that whole entire, I'm going to say the experience being there because it's being replicated. You're right, right? Instagram and Twitter right now for me feel very much the same. I wouldn't be surprised if they leverage the same experience not obviously, maybe not initially. They'll probably take some time to try to build up the value, like you said, to
Yeah.
show advertisers that this is a valuable method for them because they're not going to be able to sell the spots if they don't have data to reference it. If it's just a baby and starting. So, but the biggest thing I think for me at the end of the day is social media is supposed to be a site, and I understand the business standpoint. I'm not negating that, and I'm not putting that aside, but I'm focusing on it from a user standpoint. Why we engage in this conversation?
Yeah.
Why do we go to Twitter? It's to engage with with our followers, with our fans, with our friends, and that's the biggest part that we're missing out on right now. And this is the weirdest. Um, it's really weird. And like when you leave the U.S. and you go to other countries, especially Europe,
Yeah.
with the cookies and the every single site I'm going to right now, every time I have to agree, read, and they're much more advanced in the delineation of the different cookies that they install, like
Yeah.
very different than what we get in the U.S. In the U.S., you typically have like maybe one or two options. Here,
Hey, do
it's
you
lists.
do you want like the essential cookies and then the tracking cookies? What do you want?
And
And
here you have
like,
the option of rejecting everything. You don't have
yeah,
that in the US. In the
for
US, you have
sure.
to accept at least the bare minimum, Here, you could just say no to everything, which is even better. But the data aggregation, the offsite tracking that Instagram and Twitter do, that TikTok does, adding that to the conversation to another site that does massive data mining and data selling, I don't know. I really don't. I mean, I think the people that like to post pictures and videos are not going to be shifting over to try to post text. It doesn't make like to sell me on something saying, I know,
Yeah, I don't know.
obviously, words are great, but a picture,
Hmm.
they don't say the picture is worth 1,000 words for no reason because it does, right?
Right.
That
Again,
that
it's
creepy
it's it's
tunnel by
not like
itself tells me much more than
right.
I need to know.
It's not that you go to YouTube and just look at the titles of videos. You've got to sift
Oh,
through
that's
all the
all I do.
shot-faced thumbnails of
We're supposed to read.
people's
Oh,
minds
we're
being
supposed to look at
blown.
pictures there. Oh, I thought
So
YouTube was a thumbnail.
I,
No.
I think very quickly we're going to see sort of
Yeah.
that homogenization of experience. People are going to basically share to Instagram, and then Facebook will be ludicrously stupid if there isn't an internal, just like there is with from Instagram to Facebook. So
Oh,
you post on Instagram, and then
it.
you
Yeah,
send
yeah.
it directly to Facebook, and you send it directly to
And
Threads, and all
suddenly,
that.
Facebook now becomes a, yeah, exactly. Now post for threads. Exactly.
For sure. So I just want to shout out because
For sure.
I don't be dumb and invest all of your time, effort, and energy into Blue Sky or Threads,
No, excellent.
because then you will get rug pulled again, just like Elon Musk is rug pulling you on Twitter. It will be bad for your mental health, and it won't help you as a fan of tech content, and it won't help you out as a creator of tech content. But I would like to shout out a couple people, even here in the chat. If you've got, if you're on Mastodon, just drop a one in the chat, and we'll start looking around and finding people. I think I'm following everyone who is on Mastodon, and so I'm pretty sure that's like almost everybody but Septian. So again, I just want to highlight Septian. You're doing it wrong, and you could be hanging out with all the cool kids, but you're not. So we'd love to have you.
Would love to have
But
you in
some
the
people
conversation.
choose to
Absolutely.
make poor life decisions, and some people make better decisions. And so,
I'm also very happy to see a lot of companies are already on Mastodon. Like
oh
as
yeah,
I was, I'm in, as we're in the middle of talking, and I'm trying to post the our live stream post because I just realized I didn't post it there. I posted it everywhere except for the place I really kind of wanted it to put it in there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I'm with you. Um, it's a very nice and the big thing about the instances and the different servers and so on, you can tag people from other servers. That's the other thing.
yeah.
It doesn't all have to
It's
be
like
sitting on the same
Discord.
server.
It's not
Yeah.
like again, it's like Discord and Twitter had a baby, and I'm so tired of people acting like this stuff is so hard. Because I
Mm.
have a family Discord, I've got aunts and uncles and parents in there. Like, come on, get good at this, because it's really not. Oh, but it's just so techy. You've got to like put in your email address and come up with a password. Then how do you even use it? I don't even know. It's Mastodon. I can't. And like, come on, don't do that. Don't be that faux tech enthusiast.
No,
Um,
it is not that hard. And the reality is it's like, I mean, the biggest thing I would probably say about it is understanding how to find things that you like and how to follow things that you like. And
sure. You know what?
hashtagging works to the
If
way it's
if
supposed to
if
be.
if folks would like some tips and tricks on that, hit us up on Mastodon, and TK and I will talk about maybe putting together like a primer, even if it's like a written article or if it's like a video, or we could dedicate like an entire podcast to like setting up an account, finding people and topics to follow. Let us know. Um, it's yeah, David Burns. It took me 4 hours to build my feed, and I barely log in, and like it's really not hard. And you can use it in really creative ways too. Like I started out with Mastodon way long ago, where for a while I was just using it as a feed. So I
Mhm.
wasn't really interacting. I wasn't using like Twitter. I was just like, hey, there are these bots that post stories. Google Reader was dead. I really didn't set up another feed reader, and that's kind of all Mastodon was for me. And now I'm like finding individuals and people and having those kinds of interactions, and it's been way more fulfilling. So there's an audience for people that are hungry for content. Each Mastodon server was reported to have been fielding thousands and thousands of new signups following Twitter's issues. And
Mhm.
wherever your primary social media is, you're kind of missing a huge opportunity to not have Mastodon as your fallback. Because where did people go when Twitter borked? They went to places like Blue Sky and Mastodon.
Yep.
Blue Sky had to shut down new user signups for most of that outage just because they couldn't handle the load. And there were Mastodon servers that also had to stop new people from signing up, but people who were already members were posting like crazy. I was in so many conversations during the peak of that. But then there were other smaller servers where people were signing up just fine. So you
Yeah.
you have a much broader distributed platform of platforms where you can interact and engage, and you never have to feel like, oh no, my one social media network just went under. What do I do? Building up just a little bit of that sort of experience on Mastodon has proven invaluable for just the kinds of relationships that I like to maintain.
Yeah, no, and I think that the biggest thing I keep forgetting to do, I think we need to update our show notes as well to reflect our Mastodon access, connection. So
Yeah.
overall, what I would probably say is it's not as complicated as it sounds, but the reality of the option is it's so much more natural and more organic. That's the biggest thing about it.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a beginning and there's a lot of different things going on, but I think the approach that we get with Mastodon that's different than some of the other options, it's the fact that it is engaging directly by itself. And as I'm talking to you again, I got somebody else just it's like we're talking right now, and we're getting more and more friends kind of joining the conversation and helping us out.
Yeah, let's
The
do
biggest
it.
thing I'll probably say is join us, let us know, and I'm sure maybe next week, and maybe next Thursday we could definitely when we're back on our normal night, um, we can have a little bit of a bit kind of walking through and setting it up. And I think overall, yeah. With that being said, I'll probably say at the end, kind of like summarizing this conversation, I think for me, Instagram is dipping their hand, their pinky into this, but they're definitely what they're doing is essentially looking at, they're trying to grasp at the weak points of what Twitter is going through right now, but
Hmm.
they're not bringing in a fresh idea. This is where I'm concerned. They're not coming in with something new. They're coming in with the, hey, this is my version of your recipe. Okay,
Hmm.
so this is where I'm concerned. That's where my concerns are. I'll definitely be checking it out. I want to see how they approach it, how they do the leverage there. But in my opinion, a person that signed up for Twitter, for Instagram, for pictures, it makes the logical transition to video. I totally understand. You want to be able to see moving pictures if you like pictures.
Sure.
It makes sense. But going flip over and say, let's take the pictures out, let's take the reels out, and let's just go straight text. I don't know how you can convince that user base to
No.
say that this is a value added than it is a distraction
Well,
from what they originally wanted.
and again, I think it all goes back to there are certain flavors of storytelling that have maintained a consistency,
Yeah.
and microblogging is one of them. And if you want to have a better microblogging experience, you would want to go someplace that isn't going to interrupt the flow of your content to your readers and isn't going to manipulate the feed of your content for when you want to stay abreast of what's going on, and will give you tools like better accessibility options, better alt text solutions for people who are visually impaired, and the ability to edit your posts. And so far, there's only one that I can think of that does all of those things really well. And is also very resilient against coordinated attacks against singular servers. So I don't think it's going to be Facebook. So
We'll have to see. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, grounded tech is spot on, but again, it's like it's getting all the momentum because like there's a traditional media right now that seems so like Twitter melted down. Mastodon fielded hundreds of thousands of new users across all of the federated landscape. And I woke up Monday morning to, well, the great Twitter migration turned out to be a bust. And you're like, how? Like Mastodon ran the whole time. People were engaged. Every single server picked up new followers and new members. But of course, we're all scurrying back to like pat Twitter on the back for eventually, extinguishing
Figuring out
its
what they're,
dumpster
yeah.
fire while it's still stinky. Anyway, Grounded Tech says Threads just seems to be a more opportunistic move rather than trying to bring a product they genuinely believe in. And I think we all have that feel. It feels very
Yeah,
cynical that this is
very
the timing
much.
for their product. They're rushing it because they had so much time fielding the bad press of Metaverse, only to have
Mhm.
Apple eat their lunch with Vision Pro and spatial computing announcements. And if you know, like I actually kind of I don't, but if I had any empathy for Mark Zuckerberg, it would be on something like that, where he's like, we bought Oculus and we've been giving you this stuff and we've been trying to make VR cool, and Apple showed you a dev kit and now you're acting like that's the future? Come on. But it's neither here nor there. We should probably wrap this up with some photography chat. And
So yeah,
you have also,
I saw the post that you pushed out
yes.
regarding Xiaomi and the telephoto lens. I'll say this obviously something that's near and dear to my heart. I bring this with me when I travel. I have it with me on
Mm-hmm.
this trip. Um, but the conversation was around the telephoto lens, not the primary 1 inch type
Yes.
sensor, though. The IMX9, not the
858.
989, 858, sorry, yes, the complementing sensors. So what is the conversation? Why did you
Well,
title it as,
I
yeah?
just I just want to I just want to ask, like, have you noticed anything funky with your medium telephoto camera?
So for me, I typically jump in straight into the. It's if I want a shot of a telephoto, I typically go
Mm-hmm.
further. I don't go medium as much. I
Right.
typically shoot primary sensor, and I go into that more into the six
So
x
a little like
or 5 to
the
6x.
like the Pixel, like
Yeah.
Pixel 7 Pro has a much bigger jump between the main sensor and the telephoto, and the 12S Ultra also
Hmm.
had like a 5 times zoom, whatever we're saying, equivalent focal length. Okay,
Equivalent focal. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so
Sorry.
here's what's tricky, and I'm positioning this as like my top two favorite content creating phones of the year are the Xiaomi 13 Ultra and the Xperia 1 Mark V. I'm already pretty much done with the year, and there are some
Yeah.
really close competitors in that space, like the
Yeah.
Vivos and the Oppos. Like, yes, they're great, but right now, I'm feeling like those two phones are at the top. So I still feel this way, but it really bothers me when a feature is advertised with numbers
Hmm.
and then those numbers turn out to not really be true.
Okay.
So it bothered me when Sony came out with the Xperia Pro I, really hyping up that it has a 1 inch type sensor
Type
in there.
sensor. Yeah, yeah. I
Because
remember that
that's
one.
true.
Technically, it's true. The sensor is
The
there, but
sensor is in there, but you're not really using all of that sensor. And
yeah.
so, do you off the top of your head know what the four focal lengths are on the Xiaomi 13 Ultra?
One, two, no. Wait, I want to say 1, 2, 3, 5, if I'm not mistaken, because I remember my Find X6 Pro goes to 1, 3, 5.
No.
No,
So
one,
so
three,
so
six. Oh,
so
the
you're
actual
talking
focal
about,
length, you mean?
yeah,
Just the
you're
one
talking
X.
about
Yeah,
like
yeah,
zoom.
sorry.
So
It's,
the ultra wide is a 12 millimeter shooter because that's like a
mhm,
0.6. It's not really
mhm.
quite half the focal length of the main camera sensor. The main
Yeah,
camera sensor is a 23. There
mhm.
is a 2x
Typical.
zoom, which is a crop from the main sensor. It's
That's
really good
typical.
at doing that 2 times pixel crop. I mean,
Yeah.
Google is the best. Xiaomi is right on their heels. And then, do you know what the next telephoto, what the
I would
first
imagine
telephoto
then
is?
from 24, I'd probably go either like a 50 or like a 48 to a 50 mil. That would be my
Well,
next
that's two
jump in.
times. A 2 times
That's
zoom from a 24 would be a
Oh,
48.
okay.
So that's still a
And
crop
then the
off the
next
main
one would end
sensor.
up being probably like what, an 80 and a like an
Somewhere around
80,
an 80.
85, somewhere in 85.
So
Yeah,
so
that would be
but
my next lens. That's
in Xiaomi marketing materials, they say that the 13 Ultra has a 75 millimeter equivalent lens. So you're pretty close.
okay.
That
Yeah,
was
yeah.
close.
Well,
You would
it's
not win on Price is Right, but
no.
you went over. That's the
I
problem. Is you
went.
got
That's the
close, but
problem.
you went over.
Should have gone lower.
Um,
Okay.
so here's the problem. The Xiaomi 13 Ultra does not have a 75 millimeter
Millimeter
equivalent
there.
lens on the medium telephoto.
Oh,
It
what did they have?
has a 60 millimeter equivalent lens, which is roughly a 2.6 times zoom. And when
Okay.
you go into auto, you see those options. You see zero point 0.6, 1, 2, 3.2, and
Oh,
5.
rabbit. Yeah.
And when you touch on 3.2, it takes you out to a 75 millimeter equivalent view. TK is going to test this live while we talk about this, and Juan's just going from memory here. Um,
So it's yeah, one, two, 3.2.
2. So
Yeah, and then
3.2
5.
times 23 is going to get you close to a 75 millimeter equivalent view.
Yeah, and
But
okay,
now here's what I want you to do. So you've got like those photos on the wall behind you, right?
absolutely.
So using, are you far enough away that it'll focus from the 3.2?
Hold on, let me turn on my grip. You know, it'd be nice if I took my camera
Took
back
the
off.
lens cap off?
Like first,
You nerd.
did you turn? No, did you take off the camera cap? Yeah, no, I should be
Okay,
able to. So here,
so
the one X.
try not. So here's what's important. Try not to move. Go to 3.2 and take a photo right from there. And now go to your pro mode.
Mm-hmm. Try not to move all that. I think it's. I always look at it on the other
Don't
side. Oh, no,
don't
Pro Mode is on the
move.
other side. Sorry, yeah, here you are.
And now go to your medium telephoto and take a photo from there.
Okay.
And now look at those two photos. Are they the same field of view?
No,
They are not.
the Pro Mode is more. So the
This is
auto is more punched in, where the Pro Mode
yep.
has a little bit more room into it.
This is
Yeah.
my
Wow.
Marissa Tomei moment from My Cousin Vinny, where Vinny's like, "So is the defense case hold water?" And Marissa Tomei goes, "No, the
Mm-hmm.
defense is wrong."
Yeah.
So the lens is a 60 millimeter lens, and when you're in auto mode and you hit 3.2, it takes you
hmm
to a 75 millimeter field of view by cropping from a 60 mil to a 75. But if you are in auto mode and you smooth zoom by pinching on the screen, it switches the lens at 2.6x zoom. You cannot get to a 3x zoom from the main camera sensor.
No, it actually says yeah. So when you do the spin, well, it goes 2 to 3.2. It says
So no, no, no.
3.2 is 75, and then the 5
75.
is the 120, and the 5 is 120.
But
That's what they're advertising.
if you go to 2 times zoom and you
hmm
smoothly pinch to zoom, it switches you at 2.6. You cannot go past 2.6.
Yep, you see the lens changes. Yep. The focusing and the color processing changes between the lenses,
Yep.
and you get the little bit. So you get that shift in
Yep.
color like right away at the 2.6 as you're
So
zooming in
all of Xiaomi's marketing
right
materials
there.
say the medium telephoto is a 75. It is completely not a 75. The medium telephoto is a 60, which is pre-cropped for you to do a 75 millimeter field of view. And it
Let's do
bugs
this here.
the pee out of me that Xiaomi is because it would be fine. It would be fine to say you've got a 23, a 60, and a 120. Like, that doesn't really fundamentally change the functionality of this camera. But if you're already starting pre-cropped at 3.2, it means you have less crop in between the 3.2 and the 5. So your
Yeah.
photo degrades even faster if you try to zoom from the 3.2. And it's like, why would that happen? I don't understand why this sensor is underperforming like this. Oh, I was already cropped at 3.2 and I'm cropping even more to get to like a 4x zoom if I want something in between the two focal lengths. So this was a major part of my full Xiaomi 13 Ultra camera deep dive. That video is 58 minutes long. It was
I
that
believe it.
video
Yeah.
kicked my butt so hard, but I cut out about a 5 minute piece of it just to talk about what the real focal lengths are. It matters. It matters if you're shooting RAW. The images from the pro mode look really good.
Yeah.
And there's
Yeah.
nothing bad about
I
using
am
a
shooting
60
JPEG and
millimeter.
RAW this in Pro Mode when you shoot in RAW automatically.
So good. But they're a little bit wider field of view than what you would get in the auto mode. And I really don't like this difference of experience based on what mode you're in. If it's medium telephoto, I think it should be the native resolution, not the native resolution, the native focal length of that lens. So Xiaomi, Bradley Larcher saying, Xiaomi made a big typo. and you're like a big typo across every single website, publication, side of the box, and the internal camera app.
Because
It
in
was
the
driving
internal
me
camera
nuts
app, when
though.
you're switching with the dial itself, it shows you where the different
Hmm.
apertures are and where the different lens
Yeah,
or equivalent lens equivalent. And it does say that 3.2 is supposed to be a 70, and it does. It's not the same. It's not the same at
it's
all.
not
Like
the same.
it's a different experience. But and then most people, I mean, I'll say that the images both look great.
They
I
look
don't
good.
see a big,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I don't think it's a very different experience but I mean, obviously it's slow light. It's not going to be the clearest images, but like, like some of the things I took earlier today when we went to the Louvre earlier today with the family, actually.
Louvre.
Le Louvre. It's definitely it's very nice to be able to use the telephoto in a crowded place. I'll say that. It's always nice.
I I uh, I got so many great shots, like, and especially in like sunset and dusk. Like
Hmm.
just after the sun has kind of crested the horizon. At that fireworks display, all these kids running around, and we had all these like fun glow sticks for them to play with. And the 13 Ultra was a champ. I was doing long exposures, I was doing fireworks shots, I had a little mini tripod. I mean, like, this phone rocked my socks. But it's still, as one of my favorite photography solutions of the year, I mean, look at that. That's just flippin' brilliant. And
Well,
it's so
this
much
one's actually a
easier.
different one. I was playing with the other guy
Oh,
too,
your
but
Oppo. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But they had a super moon last couple of nights here. This is crazy. The moon was
Yeah.
almost as big as a freaking thing. I was like, oh my God. But the 13 Ultra does the exact same thing. It's like, punching in and taking those really beautiful launch shots. It's just crazy. Like I can't go on here. Let me just show the. So this is the Ultra's version of it. I couldn't catch it with the light hitting on the side, but just jumping in with the telephoto, like using a camera that is this beautiful, this
Hmm.
sharp, at the distance that you're able to jump into, especially in low light, that's the benefit. I mean, that's literally one of the main really nice things. But it's you'd have to jump into the furthest telephoto. I don't usually go too much on the medium unless I'm doing portrait, and that's
Yeah.
typically the best performance, especially when you want to get the background to go not blow up, but like expand higher with monuments.
Hmm.
If you ever want to get your subject really nicely framed, good lighting, and then the background just kind of ever so slightly expands, the telephoto lens always does it nicely. And I love that. That would be why I would use a 75 or a 60. I guess a 60 at this point for that effect. But the 120 has been doing really good. I like that. But okay, good. No, if you haven't had a chance to check it out, I'm assuming that one is on the not the Mastodon, on the
Oh, I
Patreon.
did link it on Mastodon. You can find
I no,
it
no,
on at some
I'm sure.
gadget guy at techhub.social, but also on somegadgetguy.com and on the YouTubes.
I
So,
meant the full featured version of the
oh, the
Patreon side.
Patreon.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
the
the
Patreon side of it.
58-minute long
If, if
videos,
if you're trying
patreon.com
to get
slash
yeah,
somegadgetguy.
if you want to get that entire story kind of getting it in there,
But
the deep dives, there's things that, oh man, look at the fireworks.
I'll brag out just for anyone who's listening to the audio version of this right now. I got some really fun uh, fireworks photos, and these are from the main sensor from the Xiaomi 13 Ultra, stopped down to f4, 4 to 6 second exposures, ISO 50, and like when you dig in and you just see these like razor sharp like streaks of light properly exposed. So we're getting like the color, like the gold fringe into the blue like tips of these fireworks with like red smoke kind of floating behind. It was so easy to set up a phone, use the grip as a remote shutter so I wasn't shaking the camera, and then just go into town. And then the fun thing was I had a whole bunch of like 7-year-olds there, and we were trying to find things to entertain them with when we were getting closer to the fireworks show, but it was all past their bedtime. And so just on a whim, I was like, "Hey kids, have you ever done any light painting?" And they're like, "What is that?" So I started setting them up on long exposures to like scribble light with glow sticks,
Love it.
and we spent about 30 minutes, like, for exhausted 7-year-olds to like be running around and like trying to draw shapes and throw light sticks. What happens if I like spin a ball? Well, let's see. Like, this is awesome. And setting up these kind of like 5 and 7 second. You can see my daughter's glasses just from where she's
Yeah,
like
moves it around. Yeah, yeah.
moving around and stuff. So again, Xiaomi 13 Ultra, just an absolute monster camera and presentation platform. They got really abstract with it. It was really exciting to watch them play with it.
It almost
So
looks like an aurora borealis on the left side
right.
right there. A little bit, yeah, yeah, that little bit of more of that, exactly, yeah. As
And
it
so
permeates, I love the color
they
there.
they started like experimenting with it. Like if I move this really slowly, you can kind of see the glow sticks. But if I'm throwing the glow sticks, you see these little wispy streaky things. And so there's one kid who's trying. You can kind of see the ball in the background.
Yeah.
She's trying to like do something static, while another kid on the left hand side of this rushed to the front of the camera and started like wax on, wax off with a bunch of glow sticks in his fingers and stuff. And it was crazy. It was crazy watching them completely like experiment with this idea.
Yeah,
So
and you kind of get that. There's almost like a person, shape of a person on the left
mhm.
side, the glasses and everything. I'm assuming that's still Lex in there on the left side in there. But yeah,
Yep,
it's exciting. It's fun
it's
to
really
see
cool
them
stuff.
create. But light painting is also one of those really nice things you could do. Long exposures, and that's one of the biggest things. So
Hmm.
just turn it on, set it up, and have fun. And if you're really, really good, you can even write messages. Because I remember that's one
And
of the
and
big
I'm
OnePlus things that we
and I'm
saw
telling
before.
you, with the Xiaomi being able to stop down to f4, what like the streaks of light you get are so crisp
Yeah.
compared to other wide open cameras. So I was just very disappointed to see Xiaomi play. This is the same game that I believe OnePlus got tagged with. I think it was on the OnePlus 5, where they were
Oh,
advertising a
really?
certain zoom on their phone, and really what it was is the lens was, I think they were advertising a
Oh,
2 times zoom, but the
yeah, yeah,
lens
yeah,
was
yeah,
really
yeah.
1.6, and then they would crop in software to make it 2 times zoom. I didn't like it then because that misrepresents what the cameras are really capable of, and I still don't like it now because I don't think you're really getting better photography. I don't understand why they had to make that jump the way they did. I know it's kind of like evenly spaced between 2 times zoom and 5 times zoom, but really I would have been fine if they had had a 2.6 and you could zoom, like smooth zoom, pinch to zoom
Yeah.
from 2.6 to 5. I think that would have looked just fine. It's frustrating to me. I don't like it because it makes other things on the phone look like gimmicks when they're legit, and then they lie about something dumb, and you're like, no, that doesn't take away from the rest of the camera. The rest of the camera's great. So anyway, it's hilarious, and I
No,
wish they hadn't done it.
I hope hopefully they'll be able to fix that in the software updates. Hopefully in the future, maybe clarify the correct lenses that's in there, and just because it's easily fixed. It just has to be labeled correctly, so you know exactly if you're shooting the
But
focal length in both Pro and
yeah,
RAW, or not Pro and RAW, but like Pro or Auto mode. If you're going to jump
but
in
it's
between the two.
just such a weird thing to market too. It's a 75 millimeter lens. No one cares. No, someone even shopping a really
I felt
expensive phone camera doesn't care that it's a 75. You
I
know?
think that the biggest thing that would have maybe stood out for me, if I probably say, would be like a 30 or a 35, a 50, an 85, and maybe like at the 120 makes perfect sense
Sure.
for me. But I feel like a 50 and an 85 are the two prime lenses that you'd probably want to go for from like a kit lens standpoint. 65 or 70 are also, I mean, I'm not going to say 75 are not popular. I think I have a 75 at home.
Hmm.
Um, I just it's those are the focal length. That's why when we were talking about before, I felt like it would be more of a 75 and 80, an 80 and 85. That would be the lens choices. Um, to that factor, I think the Ultra and the 12S Ultra are both very good, are very top-notch experiences from Xiaomi when it comes to photography. What I love the most about the experience that I get with Xiaomi devices nowadays, especially with the Pro, with the Ultras that we've seen this year, is that they're not afraid to put out like I've been consistently getting update. I don't know if you got the latest update. I just got an update, I think, yesterday.
Yeah.
As I was firing it up, I was like, "Oh my God! Like this is so cool to be able to get updates on a consistent basis." Um, but the overall experience with the grip and the functional options, like I haven't thought about it in that sense. You're right. Setting up the phone on a tripod and then using the grip as a shutter is absolutely fantastic. You're right because it's Bluetooth
So good.
connected. Like there's no
Yeah.
reason. I did that on the Sony, the grip mount that they
Yeah.
have for their ZV
It's
cameras,
perfect.
and I
It
mount it and
works
I
so
just take the
great.
grip with me from like yeah like
Yeah.
10 20 feet away and just set it up.
So
it's a
last
good
night
solo creator kind of
we,
thing.
we we finally got to the fireworks show, and it's like an hour past Lex's bedtime. She's like vibrating at a frequency we've never seen her before, and Marie was sort of snuggled up into me. I was sitting on this little ground folding chair, and she was kind of snuggled into me, and Lex was snuggled into her. And I had the tripod just kind of like off about, I don't know, like 2 feet to the side, and I just kind of had it up, and I could kind of lean over and fiddle with a few of the settings. But once I had that locked in, saying like it's roughly about a 4 second exposure, and I'm getting kind of the detail that I want out of these, I didn't have to mess with the camera. I just kind of kept like every time you'd see one or two of those little streaks start going up to the sky, you'd hit the shutter and it would take a long exposure, and then you'd wait for another one to kind of come in. I didn't have to sit there and babysit it. It wasn't like I was watching this fireworks show through my camera viewfinder. I was
Which is
watching
typical for most people.
this
Yeah,
fireworks
exactly.
show snuggled up with my wife and daughter with one hand just hitting a button whenever I needed, whenever I would see the timing kind of going up on a new firework launching up. It was a really nice way to kind of double dip because it was so little attention.
Mhm.
I wasn't futzing with it the whole time, but I was a part of the activity. It was pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, obviously that's one of the biggest attractions to the Fourth of July is, taking some of those images, and typically most of it have very blurry, very smoky, or over or underexposed. Like you end up trying to compensate to try
Hmm.
to reduce the brightness. But it's about family time, it's about spending time, and this is a great way to leverage tech so that you don't end up having to do this arbitrary, you see the show through this, like your experience is here,
Right.
like right? And that's typically what we most of us will do. But I know I like it. I appreciate that. Um, I think overall, what's going to happen for us in the next couple of days or so, the experience, not a couple of days, like in the next couple of few months coming up right now, is we already have seen those features. We've already seen these cameras. We've seen these experiences that we've been able to play with, from Vivo, from Xiaomi, from Oppo.
Hmm.
Xiaomi and Vivo are obviously bringing this internationally. Oppo still doesn't want to, not to say doesn't want it, but essentially wants to keep that experience, the Find X6 Pro at least, China only at this point. I'm a little bit tempted, and I don't know if you want to do it as well to try to convert our devices to international models. But I say mostly a little bit tempted is because of some of those features that we don't have.
Hmm.
But I feel like I'm worried that we may miss out on the features when it comes down to updates and
Yeah.
updates and especially with the grip. The grip that we have is the Chinese edition grip. And I just
Yeah.
saw that the international model grip is a white colored grip, which I'm not sure if it's a copacetic. I'm hoping it does,
I'm probably
obviously.
gonna leave mine just because I never really had any intention of trying to review the Xiaomi 13 Ultra as a full phone.
Yeah.
I kind of knew getting it early and getting it from China, the majority of what I would be focusing on, and specifically what I would be using it for, would be to use it as a camera. So I'm probably not gonna jump on the international ROM for the 13 Ultra. It's just unfortunately I think that's kind of the game that we're gonna play. I have a Xiaomi 13 that I need to revisit, and
Oh
that
yeah,
is an
that's right. That's right.
international
Yeah.
ROM phone, and we can talk about what Xiaomi can do for a full-fledged packaged communication and entertainment platform. And I am really kind of interested in revisiting that conversation too.
Oh,
But
same. No, same.
it's also just like for everything that's sort of feeling limited in the North American market right now, I'm showing my daughter's friends' parents these photos. Like we went down to the beach and I shared this one on social media because you can't see any of the kids' faces, but it's these two girls like almost hand in hand jumping into the ocean, right? And I'm freezing them midair with these little like delicate sprays and like drips and drops flying from kicking into the spray. And you're like, that was the super telephoto on the Xiaomi 13 Ultra. There was no iPhone that could have shot that. There was no Samsung that could have shot that. We are Consumers don't know that they're 2 years behind right now on cameras compared to phones from the rest of the world. And I think that's the thing that just kind of kills me is it kind of doesn't matter how much you and I keep beating this drum. It's a few of our techies and enthusiasts and our pals, they know this stuff, but like just getting the message out there to the
Yeah.
the mountain of advertising that people are consuming right now about how their galaxies and their iPhones are always the bestest is like
Well,
you don't know what you're missing. You really just don't know what you don't have. So
Well, actually,
it's
no, it's true. Till you try it, it's a tough conversation because you can only hear other people's perspectives for, talking about conversations like that, and you need to be able to share the content and show why these devices are actually so special. And I feel like that's the weirdest. Like, last year when you had the 12S, well, not you had with when you got your 12S Ultra, I think I was working on the OnePlus 10T, if I'm not
Mhm.
mistaken. Um, we had a time, we went there, we spent some time at the Peterson Museum, but I never got a chance to spend
Yeah.
time with it. But I also feel like even if I had had like 5, 10 minutes on it, I don't think I would have truly appreciated it for what it really is capable of doing based on the, not to say limited, but like the short amount of time, but also the content that we'd be able to take pictures of. I mean, it's a very well controlled, light lit experience.
Yeah.
Typically much more color saturated experience because I felt like all the cars would definitely had a lot of popping, color popping experience. Um,
Hmm.
so this is the biggest thing for me. It's, these are devices that you need to live with for some time.
Yeah.
You I don't know how to explain it. It's like you need to get to the point where this device becomes a tool.
Second
Like
nature.
when you're,
Yeah.
yeah,
You're
absolutely.
not
Like when
thinking
you're
about
shooting,
using it, you're just shooting with it.
you're shooting with it. Exactly. And I think that's the beauty of it. When you start knowing what tool to grab when you need to take that shot, when you need to do that video, that when you
Hmm.
want to be able, those are the things, the benefits that I think take time with us. And it's hard to kind of translate that. But when we champion a content creation tool, especially like Juan says, I'm trying to treat it like a camera. Because at the end of the day, it is truly for me. I feel like the Xiaomi 13 Ultra is a camera that happens to have a phone connected to it. The Find X6 Pro is
Yeah.
more well-rounded as a smartphone with a really good camera sensor stack.
Sure.
I feel like it still kind of gets that, like if you want to really get the professional level, you still want to jump into that. And I feel like where Oppo and OnePlus are, well, Oppo at least at this point, because OnePlus doesn't have that, is really more trying to become very well-rounded, great performer in different experience, and hits the level of right. Um, like for telephoto, for portrait imagery, again, the 3.6, I think, and the 3.0 on both those devices are going to give you stellar images,
Hmm.
great depth of field. The
Yeah.
main
Agreed.
sensor you can also do some really good work with. So, anyways, what I'm trying to say is, um, whatever device you pick, figure out a way to make it to be, as Juan said, not about the tech, but about the shot. Once you get to that level, you'll get to enjoy the content that you get out of it more, and you'll be able to hopefully step up the experience if you want to be able to get better, more different experiences at a higher level of clarity and flexibility with the lens stack, especially with higher performance camera stack that we
Well,
have.
but then also I think there's a difference here that I don't know that a lot of tech channels are really rising to the occasion on is
Hmm.
there is a fundamental and psychological difference between the phones that are just trying to be good point and shoot all-rounder communicator entertainment devices and the
Yeah.
phones that are genuinely trying to do something a little bit more aggressive for content creation. And again, the nuance of that conversation is something we don't have time for here to fully convey in our podcast. Um, I, I do kind of want to start wrapping this up here. Just take a couple
Yeah.
minutes. I know you're traveling. You're on the road again. Feels so great to
It's
be
almost
on the
it's
road
almost midnight.
again.
Yeah, it's like
What
12.
what what is what's going to be coming to the channel? What kind of coverage? What are we thinking?
I I will say keep an eye out for the next couple of days. There's a couple of good pieces coming up. Something that I been very excited to be able to check out because we've been having some conversations on the channel with some content. I am working on a Robo and Collar review, so I'm hopefully
Nice.
getting some edits coming up. So hopefully that one will come out in the near
Such a
maybe
great
end of this
tablet.
week. It is. Oh no, absolutely, absolutely.
And
Um,
then
from a flexibility of getting Windows 11, getting there, and then
don't blow
just
your
getting,
video. You're already
yeah, yeah.
explaining your Robo and Kala video. We just know it's going to be coming. We're excited to watch it.
Always, always.
What
And
else
then
do you
a
have
couple
coming
of
up?
surprises. So for this week, it'll be a couple. There should be a couple of videos coming up. I think one of them is going to be maybe a short and a reel, and a good review coming up that I can't talk about right
Nice.
now. But you will be. I hope you guys will be enjoying it very soon.
Same.
It's
I've got
tough.
a
It's tough
video.
working things like that. Yeah. It's like,
Yeah, I've got a video under embargo too. But then also, I think later this week, I might try and do that breakdown. We talked about this a while ago, but where I
okay.
get really pissy about people who throw around terms like, oh, you want to shoot really cinematic content. And it's basically just a shorthand or a lazy, unqualified descriptor for like frame rate or depth of field. And so now having played with the Xiaomi for a bit, If you think 24 frames per second on your phone looks cinematic, you're probably wrong unless you're adding a lot of equipment to your phone to make 24 frames per second look better. I think I'm finally at a place where I can show that with some good clips so that people might understand, like, it's not
Okay.
the frame rate, it's the control over the shot that you're trying to produce. That's what makes cinematic to me doesn't mean anything except there was an artistic vision behind why we captured the footage the way we did. And
Yeah.
so cinematic could be 48 frames per second, it could be 60 frames per second, it could be 30 frames per second. I degaff right there. But it's a lazy YouTuber who says, "Oh, it's 24 frames per second is how cinemas used to shoot on the films." So that anyone who's giving that kind of advice is bad at what they do.
It's
And I'd like to put that into a video. Someone is wrong on the internet. I'm going to make a video about it. So that might be out this Friday.
good, good, good. Looking forward to that one as well. I think the overall experience, I think we'll have to see how things kind of shape up in the next couple of weeks, but July for me is a solidly busy, crazy busy month for me.
Yep.
And it
Same.
doesn't look like it's letting up at the beginning
Nope.
of August. I have a couple of scooter, like, I mean, I'm out of town, but I have a video on a scooter video that I need to do as well that's going to be coming up in the next week or so. This one, they legit sent me a helmet, a motorcycle jacket, and gloves. It's crazy.
That's awesome.
I hope I never have to test those, but you're definitely going to see a different side of TK, the
That's
racing
great.
side,
I
all the
love
good
it.
stuff. But with that being said, yes, we stuck it. We stuck it. We almost did the 90 minutes. We're almost there at that level. This is a miracle. I do want to say hey to Jermaine, hey to Michael Peppertech, Barry Johnson, everybody hanging out with us on the chat. Thank you very much for kicking it with us on this beautiful Wednesday.
Yeah,
Yes, it's
it's a
in the
good
middle of the
crew.
week, post holiday, right there, getting all the holiday vibes and all the jitters from all the barbecue and all that good stuff. We'll be back hopefully next week for the show, obviously in a normal time. Uh, Audio podcast will come out hopefully the next day or so. And of course, make sure to check out the show notes for all the information to be able to hit us up. And let us know what you guys think about Mastodon. If you haven't checked it out, I'll definitely put that in the show notes from now on to be there. But thank you very much. Be safe, stay safe, get some sleep because
Go
I
crash,
need to
buddy.
get some sleep. I do. But we'll see you guys next week. Take care, everybody.